Welcome to the Road to Zero podcast. I'm your host, Nick LeBlanc, founder of Network Potential Consulting. We're here to explore the fast emerging zero impact economy, which is transforming the way we do business, bringing prosperity and regenerating the natural world in the process. And I invite you to look at how you can position your business at the forefront of this global movement. Today on the Road to Zero, we're talking to Vic Shao, founder and CEO at Amply. And he's joining us from somewhere overseas as he's traveling for business. So welcome, Vic, and thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
And from a career of management in the cloud computing industry, what got you interested in the industry of electrification?
Well, with electrification, we have a scenario where unless the infrastructure is ready to go, it's not going to scale. And it is in a very similar state to the early stages of solar adoption. It's in a very similar stage to the early stages of energy storage adoption. Except with solar, with energy storage, as wonderful as those technologies are, it is, a nice option for the average customer. If it works, wonderful. If it doesn't, well, there's still the grid, and business will continue. With electrification, however, especially with the types of customers that we have, which are mission critical operations, buses, trucks, school buses. I mean, these are mission critical assets that if there is downtime because the infrastructure is not ready, well, it's a huge problem for our customers. And so in other words, in the space that Amply operates in, it's not an option for these equipment to be out of service and to have energy to be an unknown cost and to be highly volatile. Our customers are used to on gasoline or on diesel, up or down 20% in a year, right? With the electricity pricing, it's more like 400% in a single day. And so getting certainty on pricing, getting certainty on availability are absolutely essential for this to adopt.
Okay. And just to get a better sense of Amply, who your customer base. So I'm hearing you're really in the vehicle electrification market. And who are some of your customers? Give us an idea of like the services you offer.
Sure, it runs the gamut. We have transit bus operators being customers of ours, so public sectors, port authorities, school districts, and school bus operators, passenger fleets, corporates that run, corporate shuttles for their employees. It really runs the gamut. So what we don't do is public charging. But everything outside of public charging, we serve, the private sector, and we serve public sector customers.
Okay, so you provide the charging stations. I just get an idea of your, and I've heard you've even have like the charging as a service model, I believe. So give us an idea of what that encompasses. Like, what's your interaction with the customer? What do you provide, and how does it work?
So the analogy is with solar and with energy storage. If you go back in time, to the point in time where those technologies scaled, there was an inflection point upon which a developer comes in and puts together the entire project and charges the end customer just for output, kilowatt hours generated in a case of solar. But otherwise, as long as it's getting generated, then the customer paid by the kilowatt hours produced. But otherwise, you have a development function that puts together all of the complex parts of the project: what solar panels to use, what inverters to use, interconnection with the utility, sizing, permitting, and then afterwards, the operations and maintenance of a solar deployment. So similarly, that's what we refer to as electrification or charging as a service. Is a very similar function where Amply is putting together on our customers' behalf all of the blocking and tackling that's involved in rolling out electrification. Equipment selection, deployment, construction, permitting, siting, utility service upgrades, and thereon after we bill our customers by the kilowatt hours actually going into the vehicle battery. In other words, another way of saying it, perhaps, Nick, is that if the energy is not flowing into the battery and the charger is down or something is out of service, well, then Amply doesn't get paid, right? So it puts the burden of performance onto the part of Amply and onto the part of the developer to make sure that the project is delivered, first of all, at the onset, but thereon after during the operating phase, to make sure that it's mission critical, it's available, it's working, and our customers can count on it. So that's charging as a service in a nutshell.
Yeah, just for myself, I'm actually a part of a fleet as well. I have a membership to a car share, and they actually have a couple of electric cars in our neighborhood, and it's great because you plug it in when you're done using it, and you swipe your card, and it just charges. So imagine that's what you mean is a service. The customer just plugs it in, swipes it, they pay for what they use, and you take care of everything in between, make sure it's running.
Precisely, and it makes sense, right? If you are a fleet operator, and you have any number of vehicles in your fleet, um, and let's say currently today it's a gasoline fleet. Well, all you have to do is pull up to the nearest gas station, and you're buying the fuel as by the gallon. And for large enough fleets, gasoline or diesel, they will oftentimes ask a third party fueling service provider to come to their parking lot and to fill up all of their fleet vehicles on certain days of the week. And you are also in that scenario buying by the gallons of diesel or gasoline. You're not undertaking a construction project. You're not installing storage tanks. You're not buying gasoline dispensers. You're not going through permitting and siting and all of that. But in the electric world, that's precisely what's going on today. For fleets that are contemplating a transition to electric, they are having to undergo a construction project and figuring out what chargers to procure, lead times on chargers, utility interconnection, whatever the heck that is, and and how do you even go about it, and service upgrades, and what does the utility pay for, what does the end customer pay for. I mean, there's so much complexity that's involved in electrification and it's a huge barrier to adoption, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So the Amply business model and charging the service is to do all the hard stuff on our customers' behalf.
Yeah, give us an idea of what is the challenges, because I think one of the big ones you've already mentioned is the fact that compared to diesel prices, they might change every couple of days or longer. With electrical prices, it's really a time of day impact in some cases. So, what do you provide customers to manage that, and how does that piece work?
So a couple of comments here. First of all, across the U.S., there are several thousand utilities each with their own unique tariff structures and time of use schedules and demand charges. It's a highly complex operating environment. So just imagine that you are a fleet sizable enough to have multiple locations, and even worse, across the country, and you're having to deal with, you know, a dozen utility tariffs or several hundred utility tariffs. I mean, after a while, your head just explodes. I mean, it's just way too complex of an operating environment. I mean, time of use schedules. We have a situation in Southern California where right across the street from one another, it is LEDWP versus Southern Cal Edison, and those tariff rates are different. The time of use hours are different. Yeah, LEDWP has peak pricing from noon until 5 p.m., whereas Southern Cal Edison's electric rates for EVs, the peak rates are for 4 until 9 p.m. So just think about that for a moment. I mean, the most economical times of the day to charge the vehicles are different right across the street from another. And it's not like, 10%, 20% difference. It is like 300% difference, the off-peak rates versus the on-peak rates. So, and it is highly complex. And the only way to solve this problem is by software and by automation. And that's, really is sitting at the center of Amplys charging as a service solution is a full suite of software automation tools that operates the charging automatically without our customers involvement or having them to understand these tariff structures. So that's on the energy side, and we've covered we've covered that. We've covered the actual deployment process of a electrification project. The last piece that's really complex for our customers to handle is that by now we've worked with several hundred fleets all across the country. We have yet to come across a single instance where the fleet operator tells us, we standardize on one vehicle OEM. That's all that we will ever use. It just doesn't happen. It's always a mixed fleet situation. And yeah, you would think for a transit agency, it's a lot simpler, right? All they do is buses. Well, even for bus operators, as it turns out, they also operate a fleet of passenger vehicles for driver relief to shuttle drivers, to all the different locations. So it's always a mixed vehicle weight classes. It's a mixed vehicle OEM scenario, and mixed charger OEM scenario. But yet, the need at the end of the day is the same. They need to have a single operating platform and operating system that they can use to manage the charging across their entire fleet in order to get reliability and consistency. And so that's really the bundle of software enabled a solution that's at the center of what we do for our customers.
Yeah, because people recognize that even owning a smart form, how many different charger types you need to have, and imagine bring that to a car, it must make that pretty complex. And so I guess you don't have a single charging type. And how do you solve that?
Yeah, so by now we've worked with all the major charger OEMs across the country. So the main OEMs and the various chargers and plug types we've had experience with. We also commit the vendors to a certain level of service. If a charger is out, what is their response time and what is their commitment on having spares available in case of outages? I mean, we work all of that out in advance with our vendors, so that we can deliver a certain level of service commitment to our and fleet customers. For the charging space, it's not about delivering hardware to the customer. Our customers want hardware that works, that consistently, reliably at a known cost of energy over time. That's the expectation. So that's what we aim to create and to deliver to our customers.
Now, in the space of handling this really varied rate of electricity rates, does your network also have any energy storage? Kind of store the energy when it's cheap and then discharge it when it's more expensive, or it sounds like you might even be getting energy from different providers depending on the time of day. So it sounds like there's a lot of this is, I guess, where the software optimization part must be quite important.
Yeah, well, yes, I mean, you could also think of the vehicle assets as big batteries on wheels, right? That's essentially what they are. And V to G, or a vehicle to grid, rather, or at least at a minimum, vehicle to building, will be more and more prevalent over time for resiliency purposes. Um, and as you pointed out, in the future, for energy arbitrage opportunities and whatnot. The key need that our customers ask for when it comes to storage, at least right now at this point in time, is just simply resiliency. So when the grid is out, they still need to have a portion of their fleet to continue to operate for emergency services and whatnot. We get this question a lot, especially in California, with PSPS events and wildfires and wildfire events. So that is a concern as it relates to electrification, and so we get asked this question on storage quite frequently, but it's for resiliency.
Okay, and then to resolve that, do you actually have like I know the cars have storage. There's definitely a storage there, but do you usually inside your ecosystem do you have these battery components or grid level storages to enhance the grid when it's not working?
Yeah, those use cases will come in the years ahead. The utilities aren't ready yet to make that commitment. It's still a lot of experiments that's happening today. But in order to scale up adoption on electrification, the utilities, the wires companies, I mean, they can't possibly beef up the grid fast enough in order to accommodate on all of the power needs of transportation. So if we believe electrification needs to take place as quickly as possible because we want to reduce carbon emissions, well then the how of doing that, I think in the years ahead will require some form of vehicle to grid or at least vehicle to building powering buildings as a storage mechanism, as a resiliency mechanism.
So you did a great job of really showing us some of the complexities and the problems in this space. And what's the area that your company is committed to bringing the solution? I hear there's definitely the management of all that, but what are some of the key features of Amply and your network that tackles some of these issues?
Yeah, great question. With what oftentimes the thing during the operations phase that our customers need to wrap their heads around is that it's not a 5 minute fuel up anymore. You know, to charge up the EVs, it's going to be several hours of dwell time, charging time, and for mission critical operations, you really need to schedule the charging event into the daily workflows of these vehicles. And so, in order to do this consistently and reliably, it's a software integration effort. So it's integrating with their dispatch systems, their telematics systems. It's software integration, and that's all. So software integration, the tariff and the energy, and then the interface with various OEMs and charger OEMs. I mean, all three of these features are software, related, and so that's really at the center of Amply's charging as a service offer is this enterprise grade software that ensures consistency and reliability.
Yeah, so what I hear is such a complex piece, right? All these vehicles, all these charging stations, these different providers, different rates, and being able to pull that all together in one kind of management piece and software where you can see it, create some rules, and actually optimize it. And even something as simple as making sure people plug in the vehicle at the end of the day so it gets charged. I imagine there's a lot to manage to actually make that work.
Yeah, and in as complex as this problem is, related kinds of challenges have been solved in other industries, right? I mean, I can remember I started my career in the Bay Area at Oracle Corporation in the late '90s, and back in those days, large corporations will have electrical closets full of server blades that they run in house with an IT staff, right? And the thinking at the time was, well, this can't be all that hard, right? I mean, it's just computer servers, and we'll just stick it into the closet. How difficult can it be? Well, as it turns out, it's a lot more complex than one would think. It's like, antivirus protection, operating system upgrades, battery backups, cooling systems for these server blades. So what ended up happening was that, they go down every once in a while. At Oracle, I distinctly remember, like, the email server would go offline on a Friday afternoon, and like everybody goes home for the day or something. And so what has happened in these parallel industries? Well, over time, at least with cloud computing, it's now all outsourced to AWS or Microsoft Azure. I mean, even the U.S. government is now outsourcing to cloud computing services providers, right? Where it's where the data centers are managing cloud computing professionally with redundancy, uptime guarantees, and the customer is just buying the output gigabytes of data storage, number of CPU cycles. You can draw the same parallel with solar and PPA contracts, and at my last company, before Amply, I founded and ran an energy storage company called Green Charge Networks, where we essentially did the same thing, selling the output of energy storage over a multi-year term contract. So lots of parallels in other industries, and our fundamental belief is that until you make this offering, charging the service as a service offering, then all of a sudden you're going to get adoption and you're going to get ramp ups, because you just make this easy and reliable for your customers.
That's a really good point because I know, like I have a small nonprofit I'm involved in, and it's so easy just to make an account in AWS, and you've got all this stuff at your fingertips. So I really hear the what that offers for electrification when you have the service. Okay, here are the stations, and here's the one we'll install at your place, and swipe your card and you get it. So I hear that definitely makes it easy and just as simple as pulling into a gas station, dumping it in, and paying it off you go. So really bring that ease of model. What's the current state of the market right now with respect to electrification? Are most companies trying to do it in house, or is there a lot of providers like yourself that are offering it as a service, or is this a relative new to the industry?
Yeah, the challenge for Amply is just market awareness. Is just to reach out and so that they are aware this offering exists. Um, Fleets that are contemplating electrification, for the most part, are getting hit up on by the hardware vendors trying to sell them chargers and hardware. And they I think in the months and years ahead, more companies like Amply will crop up and make charging the service offerings. So this is definitely a growth industry. But currently today, the state of the industry is that it's early. It is very immature, but high potential and high room for growth. And unless the industry gets efficient, um, uh, our customers are going to find it extremely challenging to doing all of this on their own and to scale on their own. It's as simple as how do we make sure that all the buses are plugged in every night so that the next morning they're all fully charged. Just just that one thing, believe it or not, causes more outages than you would believe. We had a situation at one of our customers where the plug, it's an industrial sized plug. It means it's 200 kilowatts of charging. And so on these heavy duty plugs, there is a latching mechanism. You got to stick it in and you got to pull a handle to fully engage and lock in the plug. we were noticing, we run a network operation center. We remotely sense what's going on with all aspects of the charging operation. But we were noticing that these vehicles weren't getting charged, and we notified the customer right away, of course. And over the period of we see this consistently, and the customer, whenever we notify them, they tell us, well, of course we are plugging it in. I mean, yeah, we're doing exactly as what we need to do, but it's just not working for us, and we're doing the latching. Of course we are, and sure enough, we send one of our guys out. We observe their operations, and sure enough, they're not latching, even though they say they are. So, there's human interface involved in these situations, and I guess that's really the one key difference, perhaps, between solar energy storage and now charging, is that there are human operators involved, and human errors, and so that's the one aspect that we pay a lot of attention to ensure usability and to ensure smooth operations. But it's a lot of little things that will end up reducing availability on electric vehicles. And it's those little things that makes a fleet customer to go, man, my buses aren't getting charged in the morning. I don't know what the issue is, but I don't think this technology is ready. I'm just going to go back to gasoline. You know what I mean? It doesn't take too many of these small things to go wrong before the customer gets frustrated and have that kind of a reaction. So if the industry is to scale, if we want to have a zero carbon future, it's essential to solve all of the things that can go wrong, all the little details, so that we can ensure uptime and reliability.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because it's especially when you're dealing with something new. There's less of a tolerance for it not working, and that's a really good point you made about the scaling up. Because right now we're right in the middle of this transition. How much growth or increase do you see in the electrification of fleets and vehicle in the coming couple of years or the next decade?
I actually think that if we do it right, it's going to go a lot faster than anybody will imagine. I mean, we are going to be at cost parity on passenger vehicles, electric versus gasoline, in 2 more years. By 2023, 2024 timeframe, it's going to cost the average consumer less to buy an electric vehicle than a gasoline one. And the fact that it is on average, electricity on average is half the cost of gasoline across the country. And at Amply, we every year we publish a white paper looking at the actual utility tariffs in the top 25 cities across the country, and it's fairly consistent year after year, and that on average electricity is cheaper. It's cheaper to maintain. There are fewer moving parts. Fewer things can go wrong. They last longer. I mean, if you start to add in all of these attributes, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer that you ought to go electric. It's simply a better product, and it's less expensive to operate. So we believe that if the infrastructure is there, all of this will scale up very rapidly, exponentially across all of the different sectors. The only sector that perhaps would take longer than the others would be like, over the road long haul trucking, where the destination and the duration out on the road is not fixed. The routes are not fixed. And it's a high utilization, high powered scenario. That's the only category that may take longer. But otherwise, passenger fleets, school bus fleets, even Class A drayage operation where it is a fixed route, delivery vans for sure, all of these categories of fleets will make the transition in a few years, and to make commitments and to do it at scale, just because it's economic to do so.
Yeah, so so the market is massive. What's next for Amply? Where are you guys headed, or what are you guys looking for? What do you guys need?
Um, so we are building up case studies across all these different markets. We are validating, the operating metrics, the fact that it does cost less, and we are approaching the point where certain ones of our customers are ready to make the 100% all electric commitment, because we have proven it out to the point where we can confidently say to our customers in all of these different categories of fleets that, hey, you're not going to get fired from making this transition. I mean, it works. Here it is. Go talk to our customers in your market segment. They will tell you what their experiences have been with not only the vehicles but with the charging. And so we're right at that point. So answering your question, I mean, really within the next year, we're probably gonna stop doing pilots. All of our projects will start to become, a fully committed 100% electric scenario. So that's really the future, is production scale customers, customers that are moving beyond pilots and ready to make a serious commitment.
Well, thank you for really giving us the world of electrification. And I see the massive opportunities, and it sounds like you're well positioned to get ahead of in this industry, because I imagine more people will be following. Any last comments you'd like to leave with us on the state of the future of electrification?
We are hiring, so come check us out, amplypower.com. Go to our careers page, and it's exciting. We have fun every day, and thanks for listening.
All right. Well, thank you for being our guest and sharing this world with us.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us today. Check us out at www.futureproof-network.com to hear our other episodes, links to our YouTube channel, and to join our Future Proof Business Network. See you again on our next episode.